Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about transit south node, square opposition, or inconjunct one's natal north node. Now, when we're talking about transits that involve the south node, it could be about what we're going away from, past, what you could be naturally proficient in, what you're leaving behind, overdeveloped and redundant qualities. Now, when you have transit south node, basically making an adverse aspect to the natal north node. Well, first I'm going to elaborate on what I mean when I say basically adverse aspect. Okay, squares and oppositions in astrology, of course, those are adverse and negative aspects. Now, the inconjunct is a neutral aspect, but neutral aspects can have good and bad qualities in them, coupled with the fact that an inconjunct can often require an adjustment or transition, and that, of course, can cause some exasperation and tension. So, basically, collectively, I do see this as an adverse transit. Now, the thing is, again, when transit south node is basically making an adverse aspect to one's natal north node, well, could manifest in what you're going away from, what you're leaving behind, the past, which you could be naturally proficient or adept in at the time, and overdeveloped and redundant qualities. Now, these things may conflict with your future at this time, and you may be trying. It could be somebody from your past has come around and is maybe conflicting with what you want to do, with your future. And the thing is, if you have this, say, in an opposition aspect, the transit south node, say, is opposing your natal north node, this is something, I mean, where you're really trying to pursue the future and go away from as far away from that past as you possibly can, but it may be difficult to do so. At this time, because we are talking about, again, basically, collectively an adverse transit. And the thing is, too, it could be where, there might be, overdeveloped or redundant qualities connected with the transit that might be conflicting with you moving forward at this time. And say, if you have a transit south node in Aquarius, it may be some exceptional, non-conforming behavior. It might be very rebellious or idiosyncratic behavior that might be conflicting with you trying to move ahead at the time of this transit. Now, the thing is, too, you have the North Node is connected with the destiny as well. And it could be somebody that's coming out of your past, somebody that you might have known in your early education. It could have been your early childhood. Might be, kind of like, causing some kind of diversion or distraction in terms of what you're trying to do, in terms of moving forward, where you feel you're destined to, at this point in time. And it could be where you feel like where your comfort zone is, at this time, what you're doing that's making you feel at home. Might be doing something where it's, maybe it's somehow inhibiting you from going after, where your future lies at the time of this transit. Now, I mean, let's say if you have, the transit south node in Pisces in the fifth house as an example, it might be doing something, just playing, some fantasy games. Pisces is about fantasy, the fifth house is games, or could be playing some kind of simulated or hypothetical sports matchups. Pisces is the imagination. It can be connected with what's hypothetical, what's simulated, what things that can't really take place, in real life, taking teams, sports teams from the past and putting them against each other and see if they could actually, how they do. And, something like this could actually conflict, with what you're trying to do as far as your future and your destiny at this time. Now, the North Node is also, it's connected with the mission and the purpose at this time. And your purpose may not involve anybody that you might have known from your past. And the thing is, too, it might be something, too, where you need, at this time, as far as this transit goes, it's really, if you're trying to get away from your mission, what your purpose is, if there's some kind of reluctance or apprehension, it can be a time or it can be very rough in order, to do so. Because again, you are talking about basically collectively an adverse transit. And, transit south, the south node is about what you're going away from, what you're trying to leave behind, put in the past. And if you're trying to, leave behind, what you're trying to get away from, what you really are directed toward, it's going to be very hard. And I mean, the north node, your natal north node, is about what you're, supposed to be pursuing. And generally, after, I'd say after age, 35 or so, the second half of life especially. But anyway, now the north node is about qualities and attributes that you may need develop at this time. And the thing is, if you're trying to get away from those qualities at this time, it's going to be very hard. If you have, your natal north node, say it's, say it's in Virgo, in the 8th house, it could be developing, more, analytical ability, maybe for astrology or psychology, or being more detail oriented in criminal profiling, as another example. And the thing is, it makes it hard because you're basically looking at where you're complacent, where your comfort zone is, conflicting with what the future is at this time as far as this transit goes. Now, another thing too is that the north node is connected with what you're learning and aspiring to be. And the thing is, you may be trying to get away from really what you really should be learning and aspiring to be at this time. Someone from the past may be having, causing some hindrance in this, causing a distraction or diversion, and also what you believe, what you're doing at this time, which you feel you're naturally adept or proficient in your comfort zone. These things could be conflicting with what you're trying, what you really need to be learning and aspiring to be, at this time. And say, going back to Pisces as the example again, if the transit south node is in Pisces in the 11th house as an example, it could be just simply kind of loafing, relaxing with acquaintances, people in groups, clubs, or organizations, or even friendships. And it might be where you just feel very comfortable, and it might be conflicting with what you're trying to do in terms of what you're learning and aspiring to be. Now, again, when you look at the north node, it also could be connected with issues that may need to be confronted and addressed. And the thing is, if you're trying to get away from that at this time, good luck on that. It could be a time, be difficult to do so. If these issues need confronting, or addressing, then that means it's going to, you need to, it's almost inevitable. If you have like the north node, in the 6th house or the 1st house, the 6th house is connected with physical health related issues. The 1st house corresponds with the physical body. So it can be a time where you might have no choice but to really deal with these issues. And now the thing is, when you have the transit south node, say if it's opposing your natal north node, that means, of course, that the transit north node is conjunct your natal north node. You're in your nodal return, for all, in most, in most scenarios, because you could have, for example, you could have, say, if your natal north node was at 0 degrees Gemini, you could have the transit north node at 29 degrees Taurus. And of course, that wouldn't be the nodal return, because the transit north node and the natal north node, of course, will be in different signs. But you still could have, you still have the opposition nonetheless. But anyway, now another thing too, the north node can be about what we feel is, what could be preordained. Perhaps it's a destiny, and you might have a hard time getting away from what it is, whether it's something you really want to pursue or not. And that in itself may not be that bad, because what you feel is preordained, could be something that could be very good and where you need to be going toward anyway. Now, another way this transit may manifest, it could be that someone from the past, which is a south node, may adversely affect your future. Reiterating, believe what I said previously. Hold on a moment. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, now let's say, for example, if the transit south node is in Gemini in the ninth house, it could be, you know, a person from the past that might have assisted you in terms of having a more manifold, which is Gemini, beliefs, which is the ninth house. Um, it could also be a time when you have this transit, it might be harder to get away again from issues that need to be addressed and confronted. Now, let's say, for example, if the natal north node is in Virgo in the sixth house, it could be, something health related connected with the spleen or the pancreas or intestinal issue at this time that you have no choice but to address and deal with it. Also, too, something that might affect to your detriment may challenge what you're learning and aspiring to be. The south node can be energy that could affect you to the detriment, your detriment, and the north node is associated with what you could be learning and aspiring to be. Now, let's say, for example, if the transit south node is in Scorpio in the third house, it could be, some, insurance matter or debt-related matter. You keep getting, maybe you're getting phone calls regarding it. Scorpio can be connected with insurance and debts, and the third house is associated with communication. It could be receiving telephone calls. Now, the thing too is what you feel comfortable doing. You might be somewhat complacent in your comfort zone right now, which is the south node. That might conflict with the qualities that need to be developed at this time. And, again, going back to the transit, south node is in Pisces, say it's in the 11th house, it could be doing something you feel comfortable, maybe doing something with the metaphysical, which includes astrology, as an aspiration. So that could be, as an example, where you might feel comfortable in. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard, stay well.